From Young Einstein. They're back for a simply irresistible year of madness and fun. Join Terrell Summers and the gang on Hey Hey It's Saturday, presented by McDonald's and Cadbury, 6:30 Saturday on 9.
You know you make me wanna shout. You know you make me wanna throw my hands up and kick my heels up and throw my head back and come on now, don't forget to say you're still the one. Still the one. Every day now. Still the one. Every night now. Number one. Come on. Still the one. Everybody, roll with me. Turn up the passion. Let's have a good time. Come on now, every day, yeah. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Now wait a minute, I feel alright every time I see you now. You look so good to me. You know you make me wanna throw my hands up and kick my heels up and throw my head back and come on now, everybody, throw your hands up and kick your heels up and throw your head back. Come on now, jump up and down now, everybody, come on now.
Nine Network Australia in 89, still the one.
Good evening, I'm Graham Kennedy. Ken Sutcliffe and I bring you the news, coast to coast. Ken, is there any news fit to see on this Monday evening, the 13th of February, 1989?
Graham, tonight the government moves to close a huge tax loophole that saved Carlton Brewery millions of dollars. A tribute to Australia's latest cricketing hero, Merv Hughes. And we go and meet those dancing feet on the eve of the Australian launch of 42nd Street.
What was the best part of your holiday, Kenny?
Noosa was really pleasant. There was good weather and a lot of people up there.
Who?
Ray Martin was there.
Yeah.
And so was Peter Harvey and Ron Casey.
It's like being at work.
It sort of was, yeah. It was like going back to work. But I must admit the best part of the holiday didn't cost much. And that was, of all places, the back of Dubbo.
The back of Dubbo?
Back of Dubbo.
For a holiday?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's good, because I've got a weekender at Mount Druitt. I know. No.
It was really nice because we jumped in a canoe,
Yeah.
my boy and myself and my brother and a couple of his lads.
So it was
And
that kind of trip, fathers and sons?
Yeah, it was really enjoyable.
Lovely.
Loved it.
Lovely.
What did you do?
Ah, well, I got on another container ship so that I could spend Christmas at sea. So because I was at sea, I actually saw 2 Christmas dinners.
Because of the international dateline.
No, because I threw up. The container was called the Asian Jade. Very nice. Australian officers and Chinese crew, which of course means a Chinese chef. For breakfast, bacon and eggs, sweet and sour. Delicious. No, truly. They're really nice.
There were rumours that you weren't well.
Oh, absolute rubbish. I had a very thorough physical checkup at St Vincent's Private, which isn't very. Have you been?
It's like full throw. Well, all sorts of people go through there. You were telling me about them.
Yeah, I'm ad-libbing now. No, I wasn't going to tell you this. I'd heard St Vincent's Private, and it's lovely. You know, the food is good and the staff are very pleasant. This is St Vincent's Private, Sydney. But it's not very private, because on the floor, I think it was floor 7, the famous Dr. Chang has his heart. He has a special deal for Hong Kong patients where they fly over business class and they have accommodation, all meals, 3 nightclubs in 2.5 hours and a triple bypass for $4,000. So the only place where you could have a cigarette was the little waiting room, and I would totter down there in the pyjamas, in the little short pyjamas, very attractive. And I'd go in, and of course every Hong Kong patient has 14 relatives in Australia, so they would say, you know, there was a lot of Howard Graham going on. So I discovered that wasn't, St Vincent's Private for me wasn't terribly private, but they did everything. They looked into things, they looked down things, they looked up things, they even found things I didn't know I had. I filled the little bottle, I turned my head and coughed. I did all that, and my doctor said that I'm all right. I had the body of an 18-year-old.
Well, that's very good news.
Yes, it is. A sick, wasted, exhausted 18-year-old. From the vast resources of the 9 Network's news-gathering facilities, here is the up-to-the-minute news of the day, and in our newsroom is George Danikian.
Graham, Ken, allegations today of mafia links at a drugs case in the New South Wales town of Queanbeyan. The claims came as a former federal police officer gave evidence against 11 men charged over a major cannabis haul.
Brian Lockwood now runs a service station, but in 1980 he was a detective sergeant with the Federal Police, in charge of grooming the so-called supergrass, Giuseppe Verducci. According to Lockwood, Verducci regarded him as a man he could trust. He said he had information concerning Italian secret societies, their operation and structure in Canberra, and their involvement in drugs. He said he was a member of the Italian Club, and some of the members belonged to L'Onorata, also known as the Mafia. Although rejecting the Mafia link, Lockwood says Verducci told him in 1981 he'd been approached by Luigi Pocci and Tony Barbaro to grow marijuana near Bungendore, with the approval of the then Inspector Colin Winchester. Verducci was permitted to participate, but under strict guidelines. Sandra Falloon for Graham Kennedy's Coast to Coast.
The Commonwealth Bank has joined Australia's other leading banks on the home loan interest spiral, lifting its mortgage rate to 15.5%. The National Australia Bank is expected to follow suit later in the week. In Adelaide tonight, Democrat Senator Janine Haynes has given permission to contest a lower house federal seat. The move comes despite fears that the move could backfire.
Senator Haynes wanted to contest the Adelaide seat of Kingston at the next federal election, believing that having a member in the House of Reps would boost the Democrats' profile in Canberra. But the plan had its opponents, including party founder Don Chipp, who claimed the electorate isn't yet ready for a third party. In Brisbane, a parliamentary inquiry has started into the conduct of 2 Queensland judges. Justice Angelo Vasta stood aside 4 months ago after he was linked in the Fitzgerald inquiry to suspended Police Commissioner Sir Terence Lewis. Justice Vasta claims he's the victim of a conspiracy. And the sports world is mourning the death of Sydney Rugby League star Jeff Selby. The St George back rower died after a car he was travelling in with 2 teammates veered off the road and crashed into a tree. Anne Newton for Graham Kennedy's Coast to Coast.
Overseas, demonstrations in Pakistan against a controversial new book has ended with 5 people dead and dozens injured. The Muslim crowd was enraged by comments about the Prophet Muhammad contained in the Satanic Verses, the latest novel by Indian-born Salman Rushdie. Police opened fire when the mob tried to storm an American building.
I doubt whether anybody in the crowd who marched on the book could possibly have read it.
Well, Rushdie says the killings upset him. He says he will not withdraw the book. In neighbouring Afghanistan, Soviet troops have formally withdrawn from their last military base, the garrison at Kabul airport. The handover to Afghan forces was low-key, with officials trying to prevent filming. Only a few Soviet soldiers remain in the country. They're expected to leave tomorrow. That's it for now. I'll be back later in the show.
The balls of the... I beg your pardon. The halls of the brewing giant Well, it looked like a bee. I haven't done this for 12 weeks.
They call him that a lot too.
Don't they?
A bee.
You, yes.
You bee.
The halls of the brewing giant, Elders, are about to echo to the sound of slamming loopholes if Finance Minister Peter Walsh has his way. Senator Walsh has a plan to put the lid back on Rent a Beer Bottle.
The fact that Liberal Party Federal President John Elliott heads the company that owns Carlton and United Breweries guaranteed that there'd be fierce controversy. By avoiding sales tax on beer bottles, by classing them as rented, CUB can offer stubbies at a cent less than the competition. Yesterday, Finance Minister Peter Walsh attacked Mr Elliott for what he called smart aleck schemes to avoid taxation. But today, Pat Stone, Managing Director of CUB, fiercely defended the company's action.
Absolutely legal. In fact, I would go as far as to say that we have probably inadvertently been collecting too much tax on behalf of the government over the last 6 months.
Associated Brewers Chairman Bill Weiderberg, an executive of CUB's main rival, Bond Brewing, said the legal issue was clouded.
The legal advice to date has been that it would be somewhat risky.
But now CUB had taken the plunge, the Sales Tax Office would have to make a ruling.
And the quicker the better, because I can assure you that within a week, the whole of the liquor industry will follow suit.
Treasurer Paul Keating has asked the Tax Office to examine whether the loophole uncovered by CUB is legal. Taxation Commissioner Trevor Boucher will make a statement by early next week. Prime Minister Bob Hawke, returning from overseas this morning, resisted the temptation to criticise Mr Elliott.
Rentsy stubbies, eh? I saw that, yeah.
CUB's hand was strengthened when it was revealed that the Prices Surveillance Authority had been given full details of the scheme and had raised no objection.
We're the price people, not the law people, not the tax people.
But ominous news for Mr Elliott and for beer drinkers came from the Chairman of Parliament's Legal and Constitutional Committee, Victorian Labor MP Alan Griffiths.
If it's found to be legal, then I will move that the legislation be changed to ensure that such an artificial and obviously artificial scheme is not allowed to continue.
Laurie Oakes for Graham Kennedy, Coast to Coast.
An unprecedented amount of food poisoning in England has forced Mrs Thatcher to call for an urgent inquiry. 50 people die of listeria each year. Listeria, sounds like a plant, doesn't it?
Yeah.
While you're away, dear, don't forget to water the listeria. Not funny if you've just gone off with it. Up to 2 million... with food poisoning. Up to 2 million Britons suffer from food poisoning each year. Well, God, don't send any more over here, is all I can say.
Week by week in Britain, the food news becomes more frightening. It started before Christmas with hundreds going under with food poisoning. Last weekend at the plush Savoy Hotel, food brought in by an outside caterer poisoned 150 of the 200 guests at a wedding, including the bride and the groom. This past weekend comes news there's now an outbreak of listeriosis. It's been discovered mainly in soft cheeses. Last year, 50 people died in England from the disease.
Pregnant women are particularly susceptible in respect of their fetus to the effects of this bacteria.
A secret report now seems to back the sacked health minister. 2 million cases of food poisoning a year. To blame, modern-day lifestyles, say investigators. A decade of revolutionary change in the way we produce, distribute and prepare food has caused bacteriological problems that can no longer be ignored. The recently announced government inquiry has as its ultimate aim the full restoration of public confidence in everyday foods. A huge job, considering many people in England now believe that eating is a health hazard.
Ever since Dennis Lilly packed up his moustache and left the wicket, the Australian cricket team has been a bit short on characters. But then along came Merv Hughes. Nobody bowls, stretches or kisses like Merv. But what does it take to make a new cricketing hero? Well, for an edit, for a start, good edit.
Good morning.
Well,